3rd September 2024. The clouds and rains welcomed us at Manali. My mind was also floating in a dense fog. In my last 38 expeditions, I had never faced so many obstacles. That too, one after another. I was not even sure about my joining the Rale expedition. But another day dawned with a great view of the mighty Himalaya, the abode of the gods. It radiates such a positive energy that all your doubts vanish just like the morning mist vanishing after the sunrise. The road in front of us miraculously opened up and I started enthusiastically looking forward to the beginning of our Rale venture. In a couple of days, we purchased, procured and packed all the necessary equipment and dry rations. In all, not less than 500 different things. A tempo traveler was loaded and we began our journey to Leh, the capital of Ladakh. From the lush green Kulu Valley, soon we entered the Atal Tunnel, a man-made miracle. It links us with Lahore. We crossed Kelong and Sarchu to enter Ladakh. After Sarchu, we crossed Naki La and cleared the Gata loops before reaching Pang. Our hearts were always drumming loud whenever our driver decided to overtake. After Pang, we crossed the never-ending Moreh Plains to reach Tanglang La. Now we have entered the Indus Valley to descend towards Leh. What a beautiful evening. After a couple of days of acclimatizing in Leh at 11,400 feet, we began our journey in the land of Lamas. On our way, we felt blessed by various monasteries.
So, we are standing at Shakti. That road goes towards Changla and then it will go towards Tangse and Pangong. We will go in this direction. That goes towards Tangyar.
We started climbing towards Warila. It had been constructed to enter Nubra Valley as an alternative to the well-known Khardung La. Looking back, we could see the area of Sakti from where we had diverted towards Warila. The road ascends gradually, crossing many hairpin bends. After crossing the pass, we descended towards the shock side of the Nubra Valley. Soon we reached Tangyar village. While crossing the welcome arc of the village, we could see our objective, the Rale peaks. After unloading the vehicles, we enjoyed the Ladakhi hospitality. The local food was simply delicious. In the evening, we visited the Tangyar Gompa. This monastery is one of the oldest Gompas in the area. It is uniquely built on a mud hill, having vertical walls on all the sides. We had a bird's eye view of the Tangyar village. It's a unique mixture of ancient houses and modern constructions, including a cellular tower. It also gave us another view of our peaks and the valley leading to them. After a Ladakhi farewell, we began our trek to the base camp. The ponies were loaded and soon we were on our way. Tangyar village is located at 12,800 feet. We estimated our trek to be of 6 to 7 hours, and we planned to establish our base camp at around 16,000 feet. We left the road and entered the mountains. Yet we were not properly acclimatized. Slow but steady was the mantra. At some places, the route was washed away due to previous year's heavy rains. We found a few diversions to continue our trek to the base camp. The mules took a longer path. They joined us after circumventing the patches which were washed off last year. Our route to the base camp was a trodden path leading to Nebogla, located in the southwest. After almost 6 hours, we decided to set up our base camp. Next day, our Sherpas constructed a temple and we all prayed to the Almighty for the well-being of our expedition. Hygiene at the altitude is a very funny business. A simple task of combing hair can produce unwanted results. In the late afternoon, we were greeted by the first snowfall. We were above 15,000 feet. We thought this place was Yuktis. We decided to spend a day making ourselves more tuned with the rarefied atmosphere. The base camp area and the surrounding mountains were carpeted by fresh snow. Our youngest member Sujit was very excited to experience his first snow.
So, hello everyone, my name is Sujit Ajit Kushe. So, I am working at IIT Bombay as the administrative superintendent. So, I did my basic in 2012. That was the first time when I actually went to Himalayas for the training. I did my basic from NIM. I passed out with A grade. So, but apart from mountaineering thing, I was very much into rock climbing. So, I used to practice regularly at National Park and various locations, with Manori, for example. 2012, when I did my basic, the basic was just to test my limits, etc. So that is how I did my basic. So after that, I started with my college. So I was actively participating in university cross-country events. So I played for the college. I played for represented Mumbai University at the national level. To be very honest, I'm here just to learn and to test my limits. So I just want to brush up my skills. I want to learn more about the mountaineering things. And yes, let's see how it goes on.
Once the snow melted and the route was clear, we started preparing to move to higher altitude. On 12th September, we carried light loads to our proposed Camp 1. We put lots of marking flags as we were now operating in an uncharted country. We planned to climb 2,000 feet before setting up our Camp 1. On our way back, we located a flat ground with a very good water source. And we realized that this place was Yuktis. We shifted our base camp to this place at an altitude of 16,200 feet. Not much wildlife was seen except this glimpse of a mountain fox. But we were daily visited by these pet animals left by the villagers to graze in the mountains. Slowly, we got familiar to each other, so much so that rather than drinking from the streams, these beasts started to fulfill their thirst from our water storage. Now, we were in a position to begin the next phase of our venture. The weather was clear, and we could chart the further route and campsites. We spent that evening in planning our moves. Here, we had a spacious kitchen and dining area where we all could gather and eat together. Up in the mountains, this luxury was not available. On 17th September, we decided to shift to Camp 1. Mayuk, Sujit and I, along with Pasang, Lang Shereng, Pemba and Ang Shereng, started with heavy loads. All the necessary gear was with us. Angchuk and Dorje would support us from Yoktis. Our spirits were high and the mountains were calling. Initially, we crossed the wide open gradual grounds to approach our climb. Slowly, the angle increased and we negotiated loose rocky slopes, rising higher and higher.
We are at the last flag, so 15 minutes at max. Over.
We call again at 12:30. Over.
Next call time 12:30. Affirmative. Over and out.
En route, such small breaks helped us to keep our spirits high. We reached the proposed site of our Camp 1. We were surrounded by slopes all around, and this was the only flat place located earlier. All the obstacles like this big stone had to be removed to make the place habitable. We established our Camp 1 at an altitude of 17,600 feet. In all, we put up 4 tents. We also found a water source. From one corner of this place, we could occasionally speak with the outer world via our cell phones as we could connect with the tower at Tangyar. Mayunk was always busy in finding safer approaches to our camp.
My name is Mayuk Banik. I am from West Bengal, Kolkata. From my very early ages, I have been into education, and that's the direction I have been proceeding in my life. But then, being in the Himalayas was always in the back of my mind. While I was doing my graduate studies, I did my mountaineering courses, but I was never been able to be in the mountain for a longer duration. Whenever I used to come to the mountain, it was like for a very short time, and then the hunger was not satisfied.
We had another spell of bad weather on 19th and 20th of September. We decided not to venture on higher slopes as the route was very unstable due to loose rocks and scree. On 22nd September, we shifted to Camp 2. The climb was gradual to begin with, but soon we had to negotiate very loose rock and scree at many steep places. To minimize the risk involved, we had decided to make as few load ferries as possible. Thus, we ended up carrying heavy loads on the day we shifted. Later, the slopes steepened and it was a very tiring climb. The experience was nerve-shattering and everyone was mentally and physically exhausted after reaching Camp 2. Though there was no flat surface available, but we carved a site for our Camp 2 at 18,250 feet. From Camp 2, the real climb began. We need to be properly equipped to surmount the steep slopes of hard snow and ice. Climbing shoes, gaiters, crampons, and ice tools came into play. Every day, 2 or 3 climbers would start early to fix ropes on the steep slopes leading to our summit camp. The angle kept on rising. We climbed many almost vertical patches of hard snow and ice on the route. As we kept on gaining the height, every day we went earlier to avail the ideal climbing conditions. We also came across many such crevasses, which had to be tackled carefully. All of us took turns to open the route and fix ropes. The fixed ropes facilitate safer movement on that difficult terrain. Others would keep on ferrying loads to the highest point reached that day. We were carrying as heavy loads as possible, but it was tiring to climb those steep, hard slopes. As we were climbing above 18,000 feet, our speed was very slow. Halts became more and more frequent. Nevertheless, we kept pushing on and on. On 24th of September, the last rope was fixed. Our route to the summit camp was ready. On 25th September, we decided to shift to the summit camp. The final slopes were extremely steep. Even with the help of the fixed ropes, our progress was very slow. Now we were above 19,000 feet. After a grueling climb of 8 hours, we could reach the site of our summit camp. We had to fight strong winds to establish our summit camp at 19,900 feet. But the golden evening helped us to focus on our first objective seen in front of the camp. That unnamed peak was 6,128 meters or 20,100 feet high. The route was straightforward, but we needed to be careful because of the hard snow on the way. We were moving at around 20,000 feet and yet to be properly acclimatized. For safety reasons, we were moving in 2 ropes. The final slope was a steep ridge. Slowly and carefully, we climbed towards the summit. It was one step after another. Breathing was fast and deep, with the heart beating louder.
वाह 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 पहुंच गया
It was a satisfying moment when we reached the first summit of our expedition. On 26th September, Langshering, Pasang, Angshering, Sujit, Mayuk, Pemba and I reached the summit. We were under the impression that ours was the first ascent, but we found a few old prayer flags left by the previous climbers. Nevertheless, ours was the first recorded ascent of that peak, 0.6128 meters. We could see many peaks all around. In the northwest, peaks of the Argan Glaciaria, Satti and Rongdo valleys were seen. Our summit camp was clearly visible. Further east, Angtung peaks were seen. Sub-valleys of the Rale glacier system were seen below our summit. The high peak of 6172 meters was seen in the southeast. We could also see our main objective, Rale Peak, and the ridge leading there. Mountains towards Himachal Pradesh were seen on the horizon, with many mountains of the Changla and Sakti area in the foreground. Areas of Digarla and Varila were clearly visible. Moving further north, peaks of Markha and Leh were seen too. Next day, we woke up hearing the fluttering of the tents. The winds were blowing at a velocity of 60 kilometers per hour. It was very cold, even though sunshine was all around. Any movement was impossible. On the previous day, we had clearly seen a small but attractive summit just behind our camp. Even though the weather was not very conducive, we decided to reach the top as the climb was steep but very short. On 28th September, we fixed a couple of ropes to the top, reaching 6,124 meters or 20,091 feet. We realized that it was the first ascent of our peak, so we erected a small rock cairn to mark our ascent. The weather was cloudy, and it was more or less similar panorama as seen from the previous summit. But a little different angle gave us a better idea of the route leading to the Rale peak. These climbs were like an anticlimax. We suffered much till establishing the summit camp, but we hardly climbed much to attain the first two summits. We were becoming a little casual in our outlook. Did we know what was next? "29th September dawned clear but windy. It was the D-day of our expedition. We again climbed 0.6128 meters. From the summit, we started following the ridge towards southeast. Initially, it was a descent for about half a kilometer. We were roped up for safety as we were moving on a windy ridge. At one point, the ridge became very narrow and rocky. We descended to a point almost covering 1/3 distance. From here, the ridge became broad, turned east, ascending gradually towards Rale. The surface was hard, and we were depending on our crampons. The final portion was almost flat. Slowly and systematically, we were inching towards our peak. At last, after about 300 feet, we reached the top point of Rale Peak. As if to avoid confusion, though the ascent was nowhere recorded, the earlier climbers have constructed a massive rock cairn. So again, ours became not the first, but first recorded ascent. We were at 6,132 meters, that is 20,120 feet, and enjoyed the views all around. Looking back, we saw both the peaks we climbed earlier. We could also locate the position of our summit camp. Towards north, we again saw the peaks of Arganglas, Satti and Rongdo. The skies were clear, and we were witnessing a plethora of the peaks around. We also saw other peaks of the Rale Glacier system. To our east, peaks of Angtung Valley on the other bank of Shock River were seen. Peaks of the Pangong Range were in the southeast and south. Turning further, we could see the areas of Changla and Sakti village. We could retrace the parts of the road leading towards Varila. Many peaks of Zanskar region were visible on the western horizon. Further north, we could see the areas of Digarla and Varila. Peaks of Markha Valley were further visible, and we could also see the peak of Stoke Kangri in the far distance. We also saw our climbing route to the peak. The shadows lengthened. It was getting late. Though tired, we were feeling elated. We have climbed 3 peaks above 20,000 feet, achieving one first ascent. The peaks glowing in the evening light made us realize there are still many mysteries to solve and many tops to reach. We hope our pursuit continues.